This episode of the KrakCast is brought to you by our friends at BigDoor24.pl. It's a new free service dedicated to helping expats to rent or buy a property and earn cash back on successful mortgage applications. BigDoor24.pl also has lots of tips and advice on renting and buying in Poland, so make sure you check them out and use the special promo code KrakCast to get a great cash back offer. And now, on with the show. Super Bowl Sunday, guys. Excited about the big game tonight?
Tom Brady's cheekbones make me want to be a better man, John.
You know, I remember the days years ago, you guys probably remember too, when there was like one or two bars in town. You had to go out and sit there and at the bar until 4 a.m. and watch. Now I can sit on my own couch at home and watch. That's the internet. That's progress, isn't it?
Duffy's is showing it too.
Wait, isn't the whole point of a game like this to actually sit down with other people? And
yeah,
drink?
I guess if you're social. If you're social, I'd rather just sit on my couch.
Like-minded sports fans. Yeah.
Well, let's dive into the news this week. A few things to talk about. Start off with the big news that wasn't so big, the bombshell that did not explode, the shocking news that didn't shock anybody. We're talking about the Kaczynski tapes, the big Gazeta Wyborcza exclusive. Mike, why don't you walk us through this and tell us what it's all about?
Well, Gazeta Wyborcza a couple of days before started promoting this, that we have tapes. We have something, that's going to just blow your mind. It's just going to change the whole political scene in Poland and, ruin Kaczynski and peace and et cetera, et cetera. And they finally released these tapes after, racking up new subscriptions, of course. And it was a big nothing burger, as the saying goes. Basically, it was him discussing property in Warsaw, but not discussing anything illegal, inappropriate. We should first start with what property and what was actually being discussed. He is part of a corporation that owns a bit of land in Warsaw. Back in the 90s, property that was actually owned by the Communist Party, like land, not like national property, anything like that, but actual owned by the party, was broken up and distributed among other, say, free parties and social activist groups and stuff like that. It was like, okay, it was basically said, the party's not allowed to have any more stuff. We're going to break it up and put us.
This was done in a legal manner. Nothing illegal manner.
There was a commission.
Okay.
Actually, Tusk was on one of the boards of those commissions that decided who gets what. And Porozumienie Centrum, which was the predecessor of Peace, got some land as well there too. And they never actually sold it. SLD sold a lot of their land. The other parties sold a lot of their land. This is one of those plots of land still left over unsold in a prime location in Warsaw. And they were basically discussing, what to do with this. And now there was talk about building 2 high-rise buildings there, twin towers. They would have been called Srebrne Towers, Silver Towers, because the street there is called Srebrna, Silver. And there was also talk about putting, say, a few floors or offices dealing with the Lech Kaczynski Foundation, so Jarosław's late brother's foundation.
Sorry, when did this conversation take place again?
It took place in June, so they really rushed it. Yeah.
I think it...
8 months ago, June.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I jump in and ask Mike, surely, the left knew that this wouldn't be quite the bombshell that other type scandals in Polish politics have in terms of the content. So was the idea more to kind of chip away at the public statue that is Jarosław Kaczynski's public images, the bad suits, the kind of the declarations where he only has a few thousand zlotys in his bank account. This kind of idea that, he emerges from a simple log cabin, says some prayers, eats a modest breakfast of goat's cheese and goes off to serve the people every morning and then has a good pray before he goes to sleep at night. I mean, is it more about saying, actually, come on, listen to the way this guy can discuss property deals. He's actually really smart and knows things about business. Ha! Gotcha.
Yeah, and basically the goat cheese is only on special occasions. But during these discussions, they actually recorded, he actually says, you know what, I'm not really sure we should be doing this anyway. It's all legal and legit, but it's going to be bad optics if I start selling property and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw a transcript of this, and I think at some point, correct me if I'm wrong, I think at some point he basically insists or makes it clear that he wants to do it with a factura, legally, as it should be done, with an invoice, exactly. So, I kept looking and scanning for the underhanded, dodgy criminal bit, and I didn't find it.
Yeah, and even when Bergenheller asks him how he's going to get his money back, he says, well, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can sue me and try and pursue it through the courts legally. I mean, isn't that Pretty much
what he said, yeah. But what makes this even more interesting is the fact that, well, first of all, yeah, he wanted done everything above board invoices. And he basically said at the end, like, okay, yeah, these are going to be, bad optics. I don't want to get involved. People are commenting on the fact that he shouldn't be directly involved in this property stuff anyway, even though he legally is allowed to. One journalist, actually, from Wyborcza also pointed out, like, oh, this is illegal because political parties aren't allowed to have any businesses that actually make money. But they didn't realize that it's not the party that owns this land. It's this corporation which has some people that are in the party that owns this land. So
just to clarify for our listeners, because there was a suggestion in a few of the articles that he had not properly declared his interest in this when he, as a parliamentarian, and you're saying that that's not correct. Yeah.
That's not correct. All this was known. This is not new stuff. Everybody in Warsaw knows real estate or property markets and like that knows that one of the corporations that owns some of this land is associated with Kaczynski and some other people from PiS. It's no big deal. But what's kind of scary that really hasn't been highlighted much is that he actually said during these tapes that, well, we can't really go ahead with this because people on the city council are kind of blocking us all the time. And he named a few PO politicians on the council are basically, for no legal reason, blocking them. One of the arguments given was like, oh, the building is too tall, even though there are 5 buildings in that area that are all taller.
Very tall buildings in that area. Because the Palace of Culture is in that zone, it kind of everything looks in scale. There's plans to build more skyscrapers in central Warsaw. It's actually starting to look pretty cool, kind of futuristic.
Impressive skyline there.
But basically, Kaczynski said, yeah, we talked to this politician, and he let us know that because, we're PiS and he's PO, that it's not going to go through. So Kaczynski said during this interview with this businessman, says like, yeah, unless we win the next elections, this isn't going to happen. Which is kind of sad to say that, like, a building going up legally and normally is being stopped for political reasons. One way or the other.
Is this political dirty tricks, or is this a huge marketing fail for Gazeta Wyborcza, or what is it?
I don't know. I mean, I think that they calculated that just landing that blow that they perceive as a blow, just maybe softening the fact that Kaczynski's not as simplistic a mountain pole as people make him out to be, is enough of a win for them. I honestly think that's the subtext here. And they see Gazeta, the left see this as a first arrow fired in the new campaign towards the general election, and and it ties into the whole. They're trying to bang the corruption drum now. It's been very effective in previous Polish elections. The ruling party gets caught up in a scandal that they keep having to explain. They're on the back foot. All of a sudden, they're not setting the agenda. They're responding to criticism from the opposition, and there seems to be with the slightly more serious tapes about the Czarnecki and the financial regulator that this is part of an overall suite of a corruption package they're trying to push here.
Yeah, the only difference is when it happened during the last government, this stuff got covered up or protected most of the time until it got really bad. But here, PiS, it's like anything that shows up around somebody associated with them, and they're like cutting them off right away.
Yeah, we should say that Mike's referring to the restaurant tape scandal that helped bring down the last government. Do you know what? I found those tapes a bit of a nutting burger too. It was bitchy. It was maybe elitist. Some of the comments, but
extremely vulgar too. The thing that's another thing they're pointing out.
Sikorsky used some really salty language.
All right, look, I can see why it was a lot more politically damaging. Sikorsky had to walk the plank by his own party, over it. But what I'm saying is. Even though that was a big scandal and helped bring down the government, there was no big revelations in those tapes either. So I believe when Gazeta ran this, they were thinking, you know what, we don't need to a knockout blow. We just need to, break the man's nose.
If political memes, is it memes or memes? What do we say? Is it memes?
Who's ever said memes?
I don't know. I just thought of that. I have no. Okay, memes. If political memes are anything to go by, it was a huge fail for Gazeta Wyborcza because the internet, Facebook was full of these really good memes mocking them for, promoting this huge news that was turned out to be a joke.
Yeah, you totally failed to land the big joke that everyone's been saying when you opened the piece, which was the largest unexploded bomb since World War II. You forgot the World War II bit when you said
I should have done that. Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, Dave, you got it in there, Dave. So that's good enough.
Thank you.
Have they backed down from this, Mike, or are they still
apparently on the website? So not in the actual newspaper. On the website Gazeta.pl, they apologized to Kaczynski, but their wording was we're sorry if we hurt your feelings. Not like
one of those non-apology apologies. If you were offended, then
by Wyborcza standards, it was an apology. Thing is, it's on the website. It's not like in big black letters on the front anywhere. I doubt it's going to be on next issue of the newspaper or anything like that.
Plus, Jarosław's a big boy. He's been in many a mud fight now. I don't think you're going to put off Mr. Kaczynski with a few accusations.
Well, just be a little bit skeptical and suspicious the next time you hear Gazeta Wyborcza claiming to have massive
They didn't
news.
claim there was anything in the tapes that there wasn't. They claimed that you want to hear this. And people did want to hear it.
Pushing it as if it were going to be like the
But they were
news
saying
of the
that he
century.
broke the law. A lot of politicians were suggesting that he broke the law because they were presenting it as if the party, so not Kaczynski,
No,
but as
fair
the
enough.
party,
Yeah.
was actually in charge of
And
this.
that's why I wanted you to clarify that for our listeners, because you are correct about that, and it is an important distinction. Okay.
Well, moving on.
Oh, no, but there is one more thing.
Or not moving on, sorry.
we have,
Staying where we are. Staying right
Go
in
back to the
place.
memes, like there's a huge dinosaur memes going around on the Polish interwebs right now because Ewa Kopacz, the previous prime minister of Poland, the last one for the PO government, basically kind of made a mental fart when it came to discussing this. She's presenting like this argument like, okay, maybe these tapes weren't such a big deal, but we need to keep, attacking our opposition with like whatever we have because we need to drag them down. Because, like back in the time of the dinosaurs, people didn't have weapons, so they had to keep hurling rocks at the dinosaurs to weaken them over like weeks and months before they could finally kill them. And she's saying this with a straight face.
So she's not joking. She's
not joking. The presenter, the interview, actually tries to interrupt. Like, there were no dinosaurs. You mean mammoths, right? And it's like she
No,
just
I
keeps
mean
going.
dinosaurs.
She keeps on walking right into those headlights.
Yeah, it is a big meme, a political meme with Eva and the dinosaurs. Yeah.
Also, they think the Holocene extinctions now were maybe not as a result of human overhunting. That theory's never really made a huge amount of sense to me. Just because humans possibly crossed the land bridge, why does that mean that they summarily executed every large mammal in North America? I've never really thought it makes much sense.
Mammal, not dinosaur, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah,
We're
that's
talking
Eva
Age of Mammoths
Kopac's
and stuff like that,
mess
yeah.
up, all right? I'm discussing Jared Diamond's
Let's leave
long-haired
our
theories.
discussion of dinosaurs for a different day.
Can I finish?
Are we stuck on this still?
I'm just saying that there's new evidence that was actually an asteroid impact worldwide that wiped out the last of the large mammals.
Yeah, I don't think there's even new evidence. That was new evidence 25 years ago, actually, but it's still
basically
being
just political discussion that killed off all the mammoths.
I think there's a huge group in the United States that don't acknowledge the existence of dinosaurs anyway. So the happening of an asteroid is an entirely irrelevant.
Can we move on now?
Yes, we can.
After our side discussion to the side discussion.
Well, just to
I guess we're
rejoin
not
her
done.
to Josh's point that
here we
it's
go.
still very much it's still very much a hot button topic in paleoarchaeology, whether or not it was an impact or whether or not it was human overhunting. And the human overhunting is the dominant theory and has been for over 25 years. Burn.
Okay, I'm going to draw a very thick line under that sentence as we move on to our Polish.
But I agree, it
news.
shouldn't be the dominant theory. So we actually agree, me and Josh.
I drew a line. There's another line. Okay, cows. Moo. You want to talk? We've got dinosaurs. We've got mammoths. You said large mammals. Cows big enough.
What a link! What a link!
Let's talk about let's talk about cows.
Steaming
News this
link.
week coming out of Poland. Disturbing news, actually, Dave, about some meat that got into the supply chain that should not have been there.
Yeah, and just so you know, prehistoric giant cows were called aurochs. Right, so the meat scandal. I mean, these are lame cows who are being dodgily put into the food chain, and it's totally unacceptable. It's one of them.
Sorry. Define lame. Lame like cow.
They weren't diseased cows, okay? So that is an important distinction to make. There wasn't someone in an abattoir saying, you know what, I'm going to consciously give people a horrific disease.
I see some prions here.
Yeah.
Let's spread it around.
It was more, I really know this is bad thing to do. It's not best practice. It is against the law. There is absolutely no defending it. It's just important to say that there's a difference between a lame cow and a diseased cow.
Sorry, I'm betraying my ignorance here. What makes them lame if they don't have a disease or something?
Ingrowing hoof.
Yeah, for example.
Loser cows.
Yeah, basically they can't keep cows are bred to basically carry an excessive amount of flesh. You're aware of this, yes? So any kind of jointal issues
kind of
like
crippled in a
that,
sense.
basically they can't stand up anymore.
They fell over and broke a leg or something like that.
And it's not worth your while to mend them back over,
How does
gently.
that affect the quality of the meat?
Well, if you can't stand up, John, your skeletal structure is affected, and you're lying on your ass collecting sores, and it's just generally not a good thing to do.
Can you slaughter a cow right after it becomes lame?
That's a good question.
Actually, there is a process for this. What happens if a cow has been injured or in some way is traumatized? The vet is supposed to come to the farm grade it, see what the situation is, euthanize it, and then there's a decision made whether or not it can still be slaughtered, but it has to be slaughtered on site, which of course costs money for the farmer.
The point is, these cows we're talking about here in Poland, whatever industry standard there is, it was outside, beyond.
Can I just ask,
the rules.
please tell me, Mike, that you picked that up in an article reading about this story this week. Otherwise,
I did.
You read some very obscure books.
No, I did. It's basically, even I think it was on TVN 24 this morning in one of their articles.
Good stuff.
No,
Mike.
these cows should not have been slaughtered, but they were anyway. Do we know how they were found out?
TVN.
They actually did a whole TV tabloid thing where they
Supervisor again.
It's like an undercover thing?
yes,
Yeah.
black and white cameras under lab coats, and
They're on a bit of a roll, Supervisor, aren't they now? They've had some big scoops lately.
So what's the backlash? Because I saw that the European Union is even involved in this now, like some kind of direction to the Polish
meat's being
government.
pulled all over Europe. Anywhere that can say there's a possibility we got meat from this abattoir, every single piece is being destroyed. Let me tell you something about the EU. They do not mess around when it comes to common agricultural standards. Ireland now is a totally different situation, a far more serious disease, mad cow disease. Wasn't it Josh that graduated to humans, CJD?
Bovine spongine encephalopathy, BSE, and there was a epidemic out of this in Britain, and then there was a strongly suggested linkage between that and this kind of similar disease in humans, which kind of causes awful, really, loss of mental control. And so, as a consequence, it was decided to cull pretty much the entirety of the beef stock of Great Britain, and all exports were banned. And that was supposed to be for 10 years, but in fact it lasted a lot longer, I think, in the European Union, and they were quite happy for that to continue.
And Ireland was hugely affected as well. It kind of it spread, the precautionary measures had to spread into Ireland. I think we'd only one case, but it was 2015 before we were allowed to start exporting our beef back to America. And much like Angus, Scottish beef, Irish beef is prized all over the world because it's so, growing grass is something we do quite well in Ireland and Scotland. We chopped down all the trees. We got as much rain as you could ever wish for. We got some of the finest grass on earth, and good grass make good cow.
As far as we know so far,
good
are
steak.
Polish beef exports under threat or potential threat?
It's not a good development for them anyway. They probably will be able to, because there's no disease involved, they might be able to ride out this storm. But considering their popularity in the EU at the moment, I don't know, Mike.
This could be a problem because a lot of people might say, well, okay, maybe no diseases actually got into the beef supply. But looking at how they're dealing with this, like how their systems work and checks and balances don't work, then we don't know if something else didn't slip through the cracks, So just in case, we should ban it.
Special interests in the beef industry are massive. I mean, it's a national industry everywhere, so it won't be long before people are in, certain countries are saying we should
think
ban
about American cattlemen or think about French farmers. They're both ready to run to the capital at a moment's notice and, point the finger and say, look, you got to keep that out, protect our market. So it's really messy. It's
What's
not
your
just
favorite
about
cut of American steak, John? Kansas,
I'm not so much.
beef.
I'm not so much of an expert. I got to
New
say,
York strip.
whatever they have at the
London broil,
whatever they have at the cheap restaurant I'm sitting at.
American
I guess
beef for me.
Sweet.
Yeah,
it is very sweet.
Very sweet. I don't like it.
What about the? This kind of reminds me of the. You guys have probably had this similar conversation, many times in the past. I've always been confused by the lack of the popularity of beef in Polish restaurant culture.
Shocked, horrified, and disgusted.
This is not a beef culture, and it's very much a pork culture. Okay, fine, but I've always been curious about why you can't find better cuts of beef at the supermarket.
I never understood it either, which is annoying because I love beef, and you go to the store and they've got like some random cuts of the parts of the animal that otherwise I normally wouldn't ever.
Yeah, what do they
get.
do with the good parts?
It's hard, like that's the 80% that's exported.
right. Okay,
You're in a different, as you put it, John, beef culture. When a sirloin steak actually has an ad on the front of it saying it's been hung and aged for 15 days, I fucking well hope it has, or it's going to be as tough as a brick. Of course, you need to dry age it. What are you thinking, Poland? It's starting to get better now, like Ed Red up in the main square where they got the meat lockers everywhere. I think there's an appreciation in Poland that it's not, just the grass and the process. It's what you do. It's the butchering process after you've...
It's still a high-end thing, though. I think the price point keeps a lot of people away from it. It's a special occasion thing, maybe at a restaurant, but at home, I don't see people using too much beef in the kitchen.
It's a real shame, to be honest with you. 'Cause
Delicious, lovely beef.
Is in Ireland and in the UK
hungry now.
is ground beef a big thing?
I've got a
Because
steak.
that's like a staple of American diet. It's ground. You can make 1,000 things out of it, and you rarely see that here. Or it's combined. It's pork and turkey, or it's pork and maybe not chicken.
Well, you get
not
pork
chicken.
and beef mince. It's
Pork and beef, yeah, but pure beef is hard to find here. I don't know why.
Oh no, it used to be though. It's like you used to go to Biedronka and like the minced stuff was usually a mixture, like John's saying. And but to be honest, whenever I want minced beef, I just go to the supermarket and ask them to mince something.
Yeah.
The only problem is it's like the cuts they had there weren't the greatest cuts, but at least I knew it was all beef.
I didn't, actually, sorry, when I first got here, I used to occasionally get a funny look when I asked for minced beef, and I always just assumed it was my Polish. But then I was told by my friend who was actually doing the Polish speaking, and it's just a strange order at the Polish meat counter. Like, people don't ask for it as much. Now they do, obviously. It's the base of so many good sauces and ragouts. And, you know.
But like the meat culture in Polish has always been weird because like lamb, for instance, something I love, it doesn't really happen
Yeah,
here.
that's another thing, isn't it? And there's a lot of sheep here, so you know.
Ireland is the best lamb in the world. West of Ireland lamb, you just cannot whack it. Fuck you, New Zealand.
Back up one more
Battle of the Isles.
one more note on the whole thing.
That's our
with
listening
the,
figures in New Zealand screwed, isn't
One more
it?
note on the cow issue here. The fact that it was kind of uncovered by this investigative journalist thing, almost by accident, does it kind of make you suspect that these kind of violations are far more common than we'd like to acknowledge in slaughterhouses?
The guy who made the piece has already written a follow-up saying he has had so much contact about lame cows being processed through slaughterhouses in Poland since this story that he has no doubts that it's more common than it's...
But what do we know about other European Union countries, for example? What they do with lame cows, you know?
Come on, it's
And
human
then pigs
nature,
as well.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Pigs is the main business here. So what happens in these pig slaughterhouses that we'll never know about? I don't know. It's easy to cut corners, I think, in these places. Yeah,
I think so. I think we all know it happens on a massive scale, and we're all, that's why we jump on these rare examples when it's exposed, because, if you don't at least do that, surely you're encouraging more horses into the system.
There's that kind of element of like, if you want someone to stop eating sausages, you just show them how sausages are made. It's that
I'm
kind
perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, me too, actually. But
No, but like actually right now all I know is I'm going to probably have to double my meat consumption over the next few months because I'm assuming prices will drop
right.
as a reaction. But then what would happen is production in Poland will be cut back, which would then mean there's less meat on the market, more foreign meat, and then prices will
the
go up.
market at work. Look at that.
yes.
Let's turn to some local news here in Krakow. A few days ago, beginning of the week. Actually, no, I think it was on Wednesday. There was a shooting. There was a shooting here in town. Now, this is not Miami. This is not Chicago. It's not Los Angeles. So a shooting here is a big deal. A tram, one of those new long, nice trams, I think it was tram 52, at Rondo Mogilska heading east on Mogilska, was shot at. The back window, the very last entrance in the back of the tram. It shattered it was a pellet. I call it like a BB. It wasn't like a bullet. It was what do you call it?
It was an air
gun.
rifle.
Yeah.
Air rifle.
A metal pellet, though.
Air rifle, yeah.
A round metal pellet.
Turned out to be a pistol, but not a rifle. But anyway, it pierced the window. It shattered. Sorry, it didn't shatter, but it pierced the window and it hit somebody inside. A woman wasn't seriously injured, but she did require medical attention. The tram was stopped at the next stop, which is the one right there by, what's it called? Białystok? I forgot what the Sistersów. I forgot what the stop is
Hope
called.
you're asking Mike and not me.
Which is weird because I pass it every day when I go home.
I don't go to that part of town. It's rough there. They're shooting
That's right. I live over there. People get shot.
Wrong side of the tracks.
to get away from that.
So the tram stops. The police are on the scene, and somehow I've not been able to find some details on this, but somehow they tracked down these two guys in the area, an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old, who I think they had the a CO2 canister on them. They had ditched the gun somewhere, but they still had a CO2 canister with them. They were arrested. They are currently being held by the prosecutor. The only news I saw in terms of the kind of punishment they're looking at, they have to pay for the window, which is about 2,000 zlotys, but I'm sure that's not the end of their troubles. Guys, you feel safe on the trams here? You talk about an exception, the rare thing like the cow, Dave. Isn't this the exception, right? In Krakow, this doesn't happen much here.
Yeah, I'm quite impressed. Did you tell me as well about this, that the police have already arrested the guy?
Yeah, they're in custody. So good work by the
It's a
police.
matter of hours, basically.
I think it's 5 gold stars for the cops there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know what information they were working on. Maybe somebody on the tram saw them. There was some kind of description. I don't know what the cops had to work with.
Certain crimes of
But
a
they locked the
psychological
area down and they got them.
certain crimes of a psychological element. I mean, we all ride the trams. We all feel so safe in Krakow. It's one of my favourite things about the city. I think most people who live here, who've lived in other large cities, would recognise that it's clean, it's safe, it's friendly. And there's a psychological... I don't want to know that there was a guy shooting at people from his apartment building,
His grassy knoll.
Yeah, I don't want that in the back of my mind when I'm strolling down the street. I'm glad they arrested him. I hope he gets at least 4 years in prison.
I think that is what they're facing, something like that, along those lines, because it has to do with the fact that they were endangering life and health of other people. So,
I just come up with that number, but I want to see that after his allowances and everything, I want him to serve 4 hard years, and I want him to think about what an asshole he is the entire time he's in prison.
Though these BB guns, air rifles, they do pop up in the news once in a while, because it's apparently all these things that old people like to use to get...
They are legal, these things.
Yeah, they're legal.
And they don't require permission.
But apparently old people use them to scare off cats and dogs from their property, or, kids use them to, against each other once in a while. But it's like something that, like, when it happens on the other end of Poland, you hear about it on the news, because it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, but a gun that's powerful enough to put a BB through a tram window is pretty powerful.
Or the window is shit. I mean,
okay, that's true as well.
No, it's kind of tempered, but that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's not like a house window, which is probably regular glass.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's shattered, but it stays in one piece. You know what I mean?
Okay,
what is that?
Laminated.
Laminated. Okay. But I saw this and I'm thinking, okay, first of all, I'm glad the woman's okay. Glad nobody got hurt. Glad they caught the guys. But this was a big deal here, all over the news, front page stuff, all over the Facebook feed. And I contrast it with, I mentioned Chicago, where on a typical summer weekend, literally 50 to 60 people get shot with bullets, not BBs, but with bullets. And it's by the way kind of news. It's mentioned on page 25 of the newspaper or whatever. And here in Krakow, we got a BB gun shoots through a window and everybody knows about it. So
it's breaking news.
Draw your own conclusions about what that means. Yeah. All right, let's turn to some good news now, Dave. We learned this week that the Polish unemployment rate is about as low as it can go.
Yeah, 3.5% as measured by Eurostat. There's an interesting thing in Poland that they use a different way of measuring it. Now, unemployment measurements are a little bit complicated. I'm not going to pretend I'm
different methodologies for that.
Yeah, and so it's something to do with the Polish count everyone who's signing into the local offices, and they tally the figure and they come up with the number of people engaging with the unemployment process, which sounds like a pretty sensible way of doing it. And Eurostat have a way of taking out people who they consider to be working on the black market. I'm not sure how they managed to do that, but to be honest with you. But yeah, so we're in 4th place now. Only Iceland, Czech Republic, and the Germans have a lower unemployment rate.
And that's for the whole country. When you look at like the local unemployment rate here in Krakow,
even lower.
It's even tighter. The market is so tight here. Cafes have trouble getting waitresses, and we all know about the IT sector, and problems across the board about filling almost any kind of position.
Well, look, 7% wage growth is massive in any economy, so there will have to be a close eye kept on inflation by the central bank. But that is something the monetary policy of Poland is totally set up to do.
I need to go to my employer because my wage growth has definitely not been 7%.
Yes, you don't. You apply for a raise with a picket, I believe, is the way it's done.
So, what was it again? 3.5 for the country, right?
3.5 by Eurostat as the EU measures it.
5. I mean, I thought, what do they call it? Natural, what's it called? The natural unemployment?
Churn or whatever, isn't it? Yeah.
Milton Friedman and the monetarists consider 5% the natural rate of unemployment. So
we're well below the theoretical minimum. And we're still heading south.
That theory is controversial. A lot of people would contend there's a lot more lag in most economies at 5%. There's a lot more people that could still be employed. But I'm not sure what I was going to say. Sorry.
Well, either way, it's good news unless you're an employer, because it's harder to find people and you have to pay more when you do find them.
Yeah, well, look, wage growth is linked to classic inflation, so it is something to be careful of. You can't, it's not, obviously we saw in the 70s what happened when, inflation just got out of control and people's wages had to then keep up with inflation, which then created a massively nasty cycle of stagflation.
But here we're hoping, productivity will also go up as, the amount of available potential employees is limited, so they have to get more out of the people they have.
Exactly. It's a classic situation of a developed economy doing really well, a full tilt. There is no bad news story in this. There's no what's the figure from Greek mythology who's always warning people about? Cassandra,
yeah.
Yes. Shut up, Cassandra.
Well, Cassandra's thing was that she always spoke the truth, but nobody believed her. So actually, it's not.
Oh, she should be like the symbol of our show then. Oh, we love you, Cassandra.
Another piece of good news. in the world of medicine. If you're planning on getting sick anytime soon and you're talking to a doctor to get some medicine, you should know this. Mike, since you're a doctor, you can fill us in on some new changes on the way people are going to get their medicine.
Yeah, they've basically, brought the whole system into the 21st century now.
Spoonful of sugar, yeah.
E-sugar. Right now, you can get your prescriptions handed to you. Well, you won't get them handed to you. They'll send it to you by text or email. So you present that at your pharmacy, or you just give them the information and it pops up in their systems. So no longer a piece of paper that you're going to lose and you don't know where you put it, and then you have to go back to the doctor. Some doctors complain about this because it's more work for them, but the truth is, once it's in the system, it's a lot easier. And there's some other stuff that's also been thrown into the system now. Is, for instance, when you get your doctor's note that you're sick and you can't go to work, because in Poland you can actually have that and still get paid.
The L4?
Exactly, the famous L4. That was done by ZUS, which is like the department dealing with national insurance, social insurance. They pay for your employer when you're sick. Mm-hmm. So, you're getting money from everybody else then. And they brought in a new system where instead of getting a piece of paper that you have to get from your doctor, then you have to give to your employer within, I think it was 7 or 14 days. Mind you, you're sick right now, so the last thing you want to do is leave your house to go to work, give them a piece of paper so they can, have it in their books that you were actually sick legitimately. It's actually all sent electronically, and after the doctor says, yeah, he's sick, then I think within like 48 hours, your employer has all the necessary paperwork.
I think that it's fair to say the corporate man on the street in Krakow is fairly impressed with this new initiative, how efficiently it's run, how well it seems to be working. Yeah, so it seems like a very
Would that
positive.
be you, the corporate man on the street?
No, I haven't. I haven't had any occasion to call in sick in a long time.
Well, the government gets easier record keeping. Theoretically, they can track these things better. And this reminds me of a few months ago, I think we talked about this, how things like dowód osobisty and driver's licenses are also available. You can get like an e-version. You can keep it on your phone, for example. And, we're moving away from paper finally towards virtual versions of these things.
Estonia is the model held up worldwide for this. The idea being, wouldn't it be amazing if every person, every citizen had their own completely secure online space where all of their banking, important medical records, property history, tax relations was all kept in a place where nobody could access without you knowing about it, or without you giving permission. So there wouldn't be any issues with kind of constitutional information protections as well. But it's a very difficult thing for government agencies to implement legally. It's always tricky. It's always difficult. It's easy to sit there as a member of the public and say, I'll make it all electronic. But, in reality, there's an awful lot of fiefdoms and walls built between institutions for a reason.
Yeah, so apparently this year you will be able to have like an electronic ID card as well on your car, on your phone or whatever, or actually not carry any ID card with you whatsoever. Because imagine when a cop used to stop you, ask you for some ID, he still had to phone it in on his little walkie-talkie. Can I confirm that this ID is real, that this person really exists? Yes? Okay, so why does he need the plastic card there anyway? He's just going to ask, is this person who he says he is? Does this information check out? They're basically just getting rid of the whole requirement.
Can I quickly give you the paranoid conspiracy theorist question on this?
Go ahead.
Combine the stuff we're talking about now, combine that with the huge movement towards a cashless society, where everything all your purchases can be tracked.
Please don't say Orwellian.
It's so
Huxleyan.
Kafkaesque.
Look, at some stage,
This world where there's a database that tracks everything about you and knows exactly what you spent money on and what medicine you're taking. Are there problems here?
That means if you lose your phone that you're completely stuffed.
Yeah.
Can I just say that at some stage the world's going to have to decide, big government, whatever government. The question is, do you trust your government?
No.
To a reasonable extent, enough to think that they'd want to do something horrific with this information. Like the efficiencies that would be possible data-wise with this are enormous. They could really make significant efficiencies and savings in the health services, in education, in transport, in finance. But it would involve, say, the citizens of Poland or Ireland saying, you know what, guys, we know some of you are a little bit corrupt. We know you're not perfect, but in general, we kind of trust you. So actually, crack on with this and please make our lives easier. And I know we've a huge problem with that in developed Western countries, but it's been a long time now since we slipped into anarchy, chaos, and authoritarianism, and maybe we should trust our governments to help us with these things.
Always remember that the government is made up of people just like you and me, so you can trust your government as much as you trust any other human being on the street.
I would trust a software company that would have their reputation completely ruined if they implemented it in the wrong way. I would trust the organs of state to react if there was a problem in terms of processing. Well, I wouldn't expect us to go, oh no, we gave your data away. That's the end of that. Obviously, now we have to let the robots rule us.
I would always hope that any kind of system they introduce like this will not be that they actually collect information on databases that can then be infiltrated infiltrated, but rather the system works in a way to confirm your identity when you present yourself. So,
yes, but the Estonian system does have all that built into it, as in it's not that the government controls it, it's that you have your own personal, completely firewalled, protected element that only you can give permission to give someone access to, and every single time it's accessed, every time, it's like
permanently written to it. So,
exactly, you know, like the Bitcoin, what do they call it, blockchain.
The blockchain.
It's not the same technology, but it's a logging in, logging out system, so there can be nothing but transparency. And if you design it right, it is possible to say to a Western economy, you know what, we are sick of people cheating our social welfare system. Let's have a system where everyone who wants social welfare has to be fully electronic, you know, as much as possible. Obviously, they can pay in cash once they take it out of a cash machine. And that will allow us to monitor that situation a lot easier, a lot more automation, a lot less going down to the job office, sitting in front of a dude who then has to make a judgment on whether you're honest or not. You know, the whole thing is so inefficient at the moment. And I think we all know deep down this is a really big conversation that societies all around the world.
It's almost Orwellian when you think about it.
Yeah, we all want a big brother to look after us, or at least a twin brother.
We're going to finish on this note. Guys, as you know, and I think everybody listening, I'm sure you all know as well, yesterday, February 2nd, was World Wetlands Day.
Oh, yeah. We celebrated extensively.
We're going to get bogged down in this one again.
Big party. Now, wetland, I think that the general definition of wetland is like a area that's covered by water, either permanently or, you know. So I think, wouldn't Mazuria be the Polish region of Mazuria be wetlands?
A large portion of that, yeah.
Lake
like
district, essentially.
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
The Biebrzę marshes.
Have you guys been to Mazuria?
I went there once.
I have never been to Mazuria.
Josh?
No.
Okay, I'm also a no. So between the four of us, we have one visit to Mazuria.
I went there
it's
once.
Like a famous vacation
okay.
district.
I know,
don't
we should
ever
go,
there
really.
again.
Harsh.
Great for mosquitoes in the summer, I believe.
Have great respect for its reputation. You know, everyone goes boating up there, isn't that right? You rent a little
where the
log.
lakes are.
We're basically on a boat for a week, yeah. It's like a little yacht thingy, I don't know, sail.
Big deal in Ireland, Dave? Wetlands?
Yeah, the Midlands are all
That'll
bog.
be all of Ireland, isn't it?
Well, you know, you're always hearing about how they're a hotbed of wildlife, and then you go out there and it just looks so barren, and you're like, really, where's all the wildlife? You know? But I don't have anything to say about wetlands. I suspect that's why you brought it up, John, just to mess us around.
Yeah, just to catch you off guard. And,
Is it World Wetlands Day? It's always the day of something. How many days are there in the year that have nothing assigned to them?
Probably none.
My favorite is, I have to check this. I used to ask about this a lot when I did the pub quiz. World Toilet Day, which is a thing, by the way, which is definitely a thing and treated quite seriously.
Thomas Crapper.
Same as John's name day, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there you go.
Well, we're just throwing random things out there.
Oh, you've got one too.
Can I congratulate Anita Voldarchik, who has yet again been awarded a gold medal from 6 years ago because of Russian cheating. This is the 2013 world champion in the hammer throw, who is now added to her collection of confiscated medals, the Olympics in 2012 as well.
She like dominated the hammer throw for years. She lost one?
Yeah, but she kept losing to Lysenko, who was a Russian cheat. Now, the Russians still have refused to cooperate. After being brought back into the Olympic fold, they've refused access recently to the laboratory in question where... you remember, what was his name? Gregory Rodchenko, was it?
How strange. Russians have such a history of transparency and cooperation.
Sticking out of their arms and like, you're cheating. No, we're not.
No, but seriously, like, you know...
a syringe.
You know, and yet they just hosted the World Cup, you know. I mean, nothing ever happens, you know. We always just throw our hands up and go, oh, it's Russia, you know. Like, of course we have to let Russia away with everything.
Is she still active, by the way, Vodarchik? Because she completely dominated the hammer throw for probably 3 or 4 Olympics.
Obviously, you know, I follow hammer throw closely.
Like, just like World Wetlands Day, we're all big fans.
So even though you put me on the spot there completely, I definitely know the answer to that. It's just you didn't bring it up before the show, so I don't think. I think it would set a precedent.
You can't
to
Google
answer
it on that keyboard right in front of you either.
Your preparation gets less and less every week. I don't want to set a precedent by just answering questions.
We're at the end of the show, so pretty much
So
you can make up anything now.
Show.
What about Piontek scoring his debut?
I don't care.
Kubica will be coming back soon.
Also don't care.
Oh, sporting.
They got rid of the grid girl, so I don't care.
Yeah, there's a lot of sport. We should focus more on sports in another show, not this one. But I don't care about Piontek. I mean, I do. I'm curious. He's Polish. It's a big deal. AC Milan, is it AC Milan or Inter Milan?
AC
Milan. Okay, it's a big club. We'll see if it lasts, but I don't know.
I'm just saying, as a starts go, it's an impressive one.
Yeah, it's an impressive one.
Now let's all just chant, "Go Brady, go Brady, go Brady, go Pats."
Yeah, watch the game tonight, guys. I'll be on my couch for sure. With
Patriots. Surely you're not cheering for Kroenke's Rams.
Indifferent.
He's going to watch the ads.
Yeah, I'm indifferent to who wins.
He loves Maroon 5.
Oh, big fan. Yeah, have been for years. Who?
Are they doing the halftime show?
They're doing that show.
Oh my god!
Nobody else will do it.
Oh my god! Maroon 5 and Blink 182. You hang around long enough, you do see the death of culture in your own lifetime, don't you?
On that note, we're going to bring the news to an end. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our friends, by the way, bigdoor24.pl if you're looking for a place to rent, to buy, to sell on real estate. Make sure you tell a friend about the KrakCast. Share us, send us a message, let us know what you think about the show. And thanks for listening. See you next time.
Use the promo code.